5:30. Stand for pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thing on the agenda, I'd like a motion to approve the agenda. So, made and second to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Public input and anything on the. None.
So Jenny and I have been working on working with our consultant at Ayers and Associates for the new micro trail project. And I believe we indicated most recently the community development block grant that we received. We found out that it requires us to start some construction in 2021. So to do that, the easiest thing to start with was to remove some of the rail lines that are on the eastern edge of that track, or on the area. So from House Road to basically, I think it's Liberty Drive in there, we're proposing to remove the tracks. We would leave a little chunk of straight track there. Just, and there's no plans for this currently, but just in case that lot directly to the east of Granite Valley Forest Products, if that ever became developed and if they ever would want rail accessible land, just leaving that little chunk of straight track would allow another spur to be built over there. So that's the intent for not going all the way to the current spur that services around Granite Valley Forest Products. 2 bids were received for that. You can see Radke Contractors and Advanced Contractors on the bid tabulation. I was hoping it's going to be closer to 0 because of the salvage value of the rail lines, but evidently the numbers didn't crunch that well. Both contractors did reduce their cost based on salvage value, but it wasn't enough. That's short of a section to really make it a 0 cost. So the lowest bid right now is $42,525.20. Everything looks good for what their bid bond is and all their paperwork. Ayers and Associates did recommend to go with the low bid for this project. There's no reason why we shouldn't. So this would come out of our either community development block grant program funding and or bonding that we have already budgeted for this project. But we do have to start something in 2021. So we're looking at bringing this to council. And the reason why we're having a special meeting tonight for that is that we didn't want to wait till the December meetings because that would only give the contractors 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks time to do something before the end of the year. That we can kind of
For our recommendation to council to approve the bid $42,525.20 from Radke Contractors for the railroad track.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
So this is, we were doing bonding for the 42,000. This is going to be in addition to the 154,000 that's originally allocated for it.
We have included money in our bonding, the current bond that we have. Judy, do you know how much we have budgeted right for this current bond that we have for this project? Is it like 200,000?
Right.
Yeah, so the overall project was estimated between 900,000 and $1 million. So the grant that we got is in the 800, I don't have the dollar amount in my head, but over 800,000. So there was a local portion that we had to have to do the project. So we did put that in the current bond that we have. So we have that money already for this project. Some of this would obviously, because this is required in the grant funded development.
Questions, we're not on the board. We already did.
Yes, correct.
You are.
I just don't see the end game of this trail. We're trying to get it into the dog park. It's still not in town. I'm sure there's talk of maybe putting a bridge or something over the river. If you imagine that Plus, a walking bridge. I just don't think we should keep throwing money at this project.
The end game is to get the Pfeiffer Park, and that is part of the bridge is included in that $1 million mark. So that's all. That is the end game. It's not to just get to the dog park. It is to get to Pfeiffer Park, connecting our current trail system.
And it's also a state, it will be a state park or a state trail that's coming from technically from Green Bay. Eventually, hopefully, connecting all the way to Stevens Point to the Tomorrow River.
So, I mean, has there been talk of this bridge and numbers that what that's gonna cost? I mean, that's all.
I'd have to go grab, the budget, and you and I can sit down. I can show those off to you if you'd like, but yeah, it's all cost estimate for the project.
Let's talk about the school goals. Money, school goals, uses for a trail.
We can,
Talk about. I don't know, yours, I think, yeah. Not much.
So I know the trail is a county trail or whatever, it's a county that controls the trail, but we control from our city limits. So you're saying eventually maybe snowmobilers can use the trail from Pfeiffer to outside town to get to trails.
Yep.
Snowmobiles used, I suppose, in rivers frozen over.
So from House Road right now, all the way to the east to Shiocta and Seymour, that's active snowmobile trail. And this section would be included in that. There's no reason why it shouldn't be.
And they already pay to ride a snowmobile on a state trail
Mhm.
for any trail that a club has. It costs you, it's called a $30 trail pass. You pay that every year. Plus your registration on your snowmobile.
Chad and I have already met with local snowmobile club too that asked and was looking for a route through and around New London. And we sat down with them and figured out what we could do best with them, and we didn't directly have an answer to them. But we're hoping that some of this stuff, like this trail, is a portion of an answer.
And the only reason that this is getting done is because we got that $800,000 grant from Outagamie County. This would still not be on our radar right now, just because of the cost. So a good portion of this is being funded through that grant through the county.
More discussion on it? We have to take a voice vote, or do we do it on,
You can do a voice vote.
Please hold this.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried 9-1.
You have a voter back there, right?
Actually,
So it should be,
Oh, okay, 10. Was your voted, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay, 10-1 then. Okay, moving on. Yeah, do you want to talk about this archaeological? review?
Remember that you
Yep.
can sit so next to you.
so because it's a community development block grant, there's strings attached with that. One of them is we have to do an archaeological review because we're, disturbing more than a half-acre site. Just one of the things that we have to work on. So we put out requests for proposals for an archaeological review. We got 2 of them back. They were included in your packet, and Nicole's up on the screen. One was from UW Milwaukee and one was from Midwest Archaeological Consultants. After looking at them, they're very different in price. I mean, UW Milwaukee one was $450 and the Midwest Archaeological Consultants was $2,225. So I immediately contacted our consultants and said, whoa, time out, what's going on here? The information I got back was, because I asked, does UW Milwaukee proposal missing something? And our engineer said, correct. UW Milwaukee did not provide all items required for the archaeological review process. Per the Community Development Block Grant Handbook for the environmental report, the site falls under an undeveloped site with over a half-acre of disturbance. This requires the 3 following things. Determination of archaeological sites are present through research through archaeological site inventory database. So basically there's a database out there that shows where potential archaeological sites land. Then number 2, conduct a survey to determine if archaeological sites are present. And 3, submit a written report prepared by a qualified archaeologist.
The proposal from UWN excluded steps from 2 to 3. So basically UWM did not give us all the things that we need. So our engineer said, we have to go with Midwest Archaeological Consultants to get everything that we need for this required review. So I guess that's my asking recommendation to the committee.
More discussion about it?
They're asking for $2,225.
Correct.
I would look for the council's approval for the archaeological review services for New Blackbird Trail, $2,225.
Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey.
Rachel. Rachel.
10-1. If that's all for Park and Rec. A motion for adjournment.
Ooh,
All in favor?
aye.
We're adjourned.
Common council meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Roll call has been taken, correct? All right. Move on to line item 2, adoption of the agenda.
So move.
Motion been made by Mr. Zog. Who seconded over there? Mr. Barrington. Motion been made and seconded for the adoption of the agenda. Any additions or corrections? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried by all. Public comment? Public comment? Public comment. All right, moving on. Moving to the budget. Mr. Dorsey, can you lead us out?
I look for approval of the resolution to authorize borrowing in the amount of $100,000.
Motion been made by Mr. Dorsey and seconded by Mr. Fisher for the approval of the resolution to authorize borrowing in the amount of $100,000. Any comment?
I'd like to review what we've been through on this issue and also get the new alderman up to speed. On October 13th, our budget hearing, Judy brought up borrowing because, and correct me if I'm wrong, our taxes were supposed to go down, our tax levy was supposed to go down. Because of that, she suggested borrowing $500 or $50,000 or $100,000 so that it'll keep our tax levy up. It was motioned by Olson and seconded by Zog to borrow the $100,000 with in contingent of our taxes not going up. On November 3rd, Finance and Personnel, Judy informs us that our taxes are going up because of the residential assessments and sales, property values are going up and industrial going down. So we it was motioned to do 100,000, it failed. Motion to do 0, it failed, and it passed at 50,000. At the common council meeting, Fred Zog motion to amend the motion so that it would be the $100,000, and it was a split 5-5 vote, and the mayor decided to go with it. I guess I have two questions. I know in the first meeting, there was a graph on how much our taxes will go up. And I've been looking at the minutes and I can't find that number. Was it like $54,000 per 200,000?
So initially, when I presented, you are correct in a lot of the information that you have presented to date. So what I presented is 3 different scenarios. Number 1 was, and this is for your benefit also, was an increase in taxes based on taking the amount of tax levy that we are allowed based on net new construction. And then the increase due to the state trust fund loan that we needed to take out for the buildings and roofing, because we couldn't put that in our bonding. It's not an eligible expense for bonding. So that increase, not including the $50,000, not including the $100,000. So without that was an increase of $41.52 on the Outagamie side and $34.58 on the Wapaka side. Is that what you were looking for me to explain? And then do you want me to talk about the other 2?
Yes, please.
Okay. And then the next scenario was a $50,000 short-term debt. And we have done this in the past because one of the things that the council has asked, or we have looked to do in the past, was to keep our tax levy steady. So or be able to add to our capital projects by taking out a short-term debt so that we didn't have to use designated funds. And then we have what's called an expenditure restraint. We were allowed to, what it allows us to do is maximize some of those dollars too, because we're in an environment where our rates are higher than normal. Normally that expenditure restraint is in the 1%, maybe under 1% range. And this year it's at 4.5%. So we have the capacity to take these additional funds. So the increase in taxes with a $50,000 short-term debt would be approximately $67 for Outagamie and $59 or $60 for Wapaka. And then the $100,000 debt was $92 or $93 Outagamie County and $85 Wapaka.
My second question is, how does this affect our original motion that was passed with the budget of the whole that said that we would borrow 100,000 if our taxes did not go up? Since it was a committee of the whole, there was a motion that in the past. How does it affect the second motion? Because the original motion was we would borrow it if it didn't raise our taxes.
Well, the committee of the whole is still a subsection of the council, so I would say that that's similar to a committee. Vote the committee is not binding on the council as a whole. So you still vote on it as a council.
So that's just what I have to say about that is that taxes will be increasing by $50, 200,000.
Correct. With $100,000, it will be increasing about $92. So if the bonding, the $100,000 bonding is approved, it is actually $92 on a $200,000 home. You are correct for Outagamie, and about $86 on the Wapaka side.
Everybody knew exactly what they were doing.
I thank you for that, Mr. Roberts. Also, commend you on doing your due diligence and all the state choice.
definitely not something you take lightly. And we have talked about this a lot. You know, public record stuff, I voted one way and one and switched to another with further information as we roll along. In fact, I talked to constituents on both sides of it. I feel I represent London as a whole, not just the constituents that are like-minded. So with that said, talking to them, one thing I pride myself on is that we have the lowest taxes in Quebec County. So people quickly reminded, that's not always a good thing. Not that hey, we want to raise it, it's not a good thing, but it was just part of discussion. And forward thinking and planning for the city of London, by looking at this, hopefully by setting ourselves up today, puts us in a position for tomorrow that we will not have to raise taxes much, or if any at all. And this is kind of forced by hand by the state that we have that we're having now, not by our own doing. So that's where I came to the conclusion of why I changed my.
And just another clarification, you brought up a lot of very good points. This $100,000 is not for operational expenses. This is for capital. So this is to add a piece of equipment, add a couple pieces of equipment, do a few more projects this year without having to deplete our capital projects reserve, because we hold tight of that just in case. As Mr. Bisson knows, and many of you that were on the council when our snowplow went down, we were able to dip into our capital projects reserve to be able to fund that piece of equipment. So we are getting down to about $250,000 within those designated funds. We utilize the $100,000 from short-term debt instead of dipping into those designated funds, and will allow us to keep it at $250,000 versus reducing it to $150,000. As we know, when you get a piece of equipment at the Department of Public Works, $150,000 is not a lot of money.
One more comment, with that capital projects, with the Blackmore Trail and the library project.
The Newton Blackmore Trail was actually bonded for. So all of the dollars that you talked about tonight even have already been bonded for at the end of last year. Those funds are already put aside. They are not in this specific capital projects designated funds. We keep those funds separate. So anything that you approve for that Newton Blackmore Trail, in fact, that trail would never, ever have been done except for the funding that we received through the CDGB, through Outagamie County, because we're literally paying 20% of $800 and some thousand project. So I think at the end of the day, the council thought that those dollars are being very well spent, because we were only paying 20% of that, and that capital designated capital funds does not include that dollar.
Any further discussion?
I'd just like to say my reasoning on it is you have to look at it in terms of, as Judy said, maximizing dollars in future budgets. These are dollars for road repairs, capital projects. And we were really selling ourselves short. I mean, budgetarily in future budgets by not doing that short term. The ramifications of that can never be brought back up. It's kind of like if you missed the first 4 years of school because you were ill. You very difficult to catch up and graduate at the same class. By not maximizing your future budgets and your levy authority, you really hinder yourself. It's like the growth rings on a tree. You can't make that up. You lose it forever. You see this most often in school district budgets. But the other thing that I think of, and it can't do to bring in what the other taxing agencies around us are going to be doing. This year is a perfect year. As
much of our surrounding rates are going down. Therefore, the effect of this smart move, borrow that $100,000, are going to be minimal on our taxpayer, if noticeable at all. Next year is a different story. Everyone knows, do you think taxes are going to go down next year? Do you think prices of anything are going to go down? I think that it would be irresponsible for us not to look at these three options and say, look, let's maximize our revenue. And then we don't lose it forever. That's my opinion.
It just sounded like she brought it up originally because the taxes are going to go down. Now, it seemed like even at the finance and personnel meeting, she's like, I realize you as a constituents, you don't need to do this because our taxes are going up. It's just like adding more taxes on. Just because.
And when the projections were the way they were, and then you come back with a surprise, and we didn't realize that the values of industrial versus residential were going to be so off from the 80s. First time we've seen that in decades. So that was kind of a surprise, and then there we were, Tim. Everyone said this is what's going to be, but we didn't really know because we didn't get to the park yet. We were on a long ride budget process. We had a lot of factors we figured we could bank on, but then some of those factors changed and flew a tire out. So we didn't want to back up on what we thought was really going to happen. So taking all those variables aside, look at what is the best fiscal policy procedure here to maximize our ability to get projects done and maintain the services we provide people fiscally. And it is by doing this. It is a little game we play with the state because they impose the revenue limits. They impose our spending limits on us. So this is something that we do to maximize our authority to spend what we can in our work. So I mean, it probably didn't put it in the shortest terms possible, but that is kind of how it goes.
Say one more thing and then we can go to vote. I'm all with you. When I first came out here, I was like, wow, you know, the city's short on money, you know, hey, if it's well, it goes down, we gotta replace it.
All for that. But then I see the library project, you know, we're bonding for $750,000 for that, and the expense is going to be it's going to be a money pit. It really is. The budget that was laid out, and I just see our expenses going up in certain directions where I don't think everyone in town believes it should be going. And I'm with you on the snow plows and the roads and all that stuff, but
so to sell me on, oh, we don't have money, we need to raise taxes, but then spend money on projects like that, I guess I was just a little concerned.
Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. The motion of approval of the resolution authorize borrowing in the amount of $100,000.
Carried 9-1. Moving on, approval. Mr. Dorsey, that's you.
I look for approval of a general fund tax levy of $3,895,200.
Motion been made, seconded by Zog. For
Made by
approval.
me, I can't second it too.
What's that?
No, I'm making a motion,
Oh,
Fred.
I'll second it. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, Dave.
Approval of general fund tax levy of $3,895,200. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots.
Motion carried 9-1.
For approval of the debt service levy of $933,959.
Second.
Motion been made and I think that's second. Steve Oaks. For approval of debt
service levy of $933,959. Discussion. Yes. Motion carried 10-0.
The 2022 city budget to include a $50,000 increase in debt service levy.
Motion been made and seconded by Mr. Zaw. Ordinance, we got 2022 city budget revised to include $50,000 increase in debt service levy. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion carried 10-0.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Move on to capital projects, Mr. Musso.
Chapter project, we missed the front end loader last time at an estimated cost of $125,000. We're looking for council approval.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded by Mr. Dorsey for replacement of the front end loader. $225,000. Any further discussion? Cast your ballots. Motion carried 10-0. Mr. Musso, we hear student park direction.
I would look for approval of the contract. We talked about it before the park and rec meeting. The approval for the awarding to the railroad track removal.
Second. Motion been made and seconded by Mr. Herder for approval of the contract award for railroad track removal. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion carried. 1.
Discussed the park and rec meeting. I look for approval for the archaeological review services for Black Hawk Trail.
Second. Motion been made and seconded by Mr. Ritchie for approval of agreement for archaeological review services for new Blackmore Trail. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion carried 9-1. Moving on, discussion and possible action on determining uniform start time for committee meetings. Basically, this has been brought forth by myself and Mr. Roberts. And I think a couple others had conversations with constituents and council members and committee members. We currently have time starting from 4:30, 4:45, 5, 5:30. Been asked to have it start a little bit later. I've asked to, if we're going to change them, then we change by uniform time. And now is the time to discuss it. Well, council together. Kind of like I brought it up at all the meetings to let everybody know that it's going to happen. If I wanted to attend when it was on the agenda, they could attend as far as committee members. So I'll leave it up for discussion. Mr. Zucker.
Thinking about this, certain committees, like, for example, like in the home. Yeah, it's understood that in the city. They should, that's either. They're gonna stick around there until 5:30 when they close the bank and what. That committee, for example, 5:30 is kind of late. I think, made a compromise at 5 o'clock start. Since we also got a voice and voice.
I feel 5:30, 6 o'clock would be actually. I can't, I struggle to get here. 6:30, if you have the seconds, you time to go home and get some dinner. Sometimes come near 7 o'clock.
Five o'clock, planning for 5, that's work out for everybody. My concern is if the grandparents or parents, kids are playing sports and stuff, basketball, girls basketball and stuff.
if you start at 7 o'clock, so you got a 5 o'clock meeting, most of the meetings are an hour, you'll be out of here by 6 o'clock, so you can make games during the I agree with that.
So the information that I've received from constituents and amongst talking and stuff is between 5 and 5:30 were the projected times. My thought process was 5:30. A lot of shift changes are at 5. That gives people time to do what they need to do and get here. Look around room, several of us work. I'm just looking to see, my suggestion would be 5:30 to see if we can get more people involved in from the city. More of our constituents here. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing as far as time that we're gonna get more people or not. But I definitely am interested in trying.
I think you actually get less, Mr. Mayor.
We can't hear
Maybe
you.
a lot of people here, public.
Looking, I went to Appleton, Nina, National, PACA, clicked the website just to see what everybody else is doing. And unfortunately, everyone's all over the board. That didn't help me all there. There was 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30, the whole, yeah, it was all of us. There's no consistency whatsoever trying to find something. Obviously, talking to staff and starting later does push us. We started at 6 o'clock later, then we're here till 6:30, 7 o'clock, 7:30 times. We talk about dual committee meetings, they do that sometimes for you. So, you know, we're starting at 6 o'clock time. Out of here, 1:30 o'clock. Could you adjust those start times as well? Everything's all. Would you want us to look at it by 15 or that out there to consideration? So if you close at 5, that would work. Oh no, that gives you enough time to get 5.
I'm just 5.
5:30 great, 5:15, because that way guys that are working stay till 5. They don't have to rush and bust butt to get here. Don't matter to me, I don't work anyway.
Try it, see if it works.
I think that's a great compromise
For me,
myself.
it doesn't matter either way. The meetings I'm gonna miss, my kids are in sports, I'm gonna miss them whether you're at 3 o'clock or you're at 6 o'clock. I will be. That goes for anybody that has children in sports or, you know.
So I'd like to be clear about this too. This is committee meetings. Our council meeting will continue to stay at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
Josh?
With the different various jobs and it's a little bit, I tend to be with them, I like the later, but 5:30 or 5:15 is a compromise I can be happy with. It's still better than 20.
Perfect. Mr. Barrington?
I would not like to see them go beyond 5:15. We've had double meetings that have lasted until 8:30 at night. Now we start moving this. We can't stop double meetings when we have holidays. Then bring stuff up. Pretty soon, we're not getting out until 9 o'clock at night.
Now here's the question. Can't we change the Monday meeting to a different day of the week? It's the only one that always falls on a Monday that we have to have a double meeting on Tuesday. So why can't, which one is Park and Rec or Public Works? Why can't Public Works just move? And that'd be the easiest thing, to get rid of all the double meetings. That's the only double meeting we have is the Public Works and Park and Rec.
Screw up my wrist.
Mondays out.
We don't want to do that.
What's that?
Wrestling. Can't do that.
It's easy not to have a double meeting is move Public Works meeting. That's the easiest way.
That can be taken up.
Then we'd never have.
Chair at that time. They can put that on a line item agenda, discuss that at that time.
Right now, from now until 4:30 screws up my deer.
Don't fall.
So I think, sounds like we have a good compromise at a 5:15 start time for committees. As a standard for across the board of all committees, we'll get a motion for that.
I'll make a motion.
What's that?
I'll make a motion that start at 5:15.
Second.
We have a motion to start at 5:15 for Mr. Ritchie and second by Mr. Dorsey. Is there any further discussion? Zog, do you want to comment? Okay.
Now that's from now until January, can we start about 6 o'clock? Because I go deer hunting.
Yeah, I mean, are you saying effective immediately or effective in the new year?
I would, how do you want it, that motion?
I would start it now. That way we can. Well, it's already been put out for December's meetings at the end of the committee meetings that we're meeting in. 4:45.
All of it, pretty sure all
The
of them
next
say,
meeting, you say, hey, we're meeting at 5:15 now.
all of us
Start
said
at January.
on this meeting.
The first one would be economic development. 2 weeks.
We can do that.
I think we can just start now.
We'll start now.
So the motion is to start at
5:15 effective tonight.
5:15 tonight. For all committees. Mr. Dorsey, further discussion. Please cast your ballot. Carried 9-12. With that said. Made by Mr. Barrington, seconded. Mr. Shea.
All in favor, say aye.
Opposed?